Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. David Proden. Welcome to the Safety Doc Podcast. And we have with us Vincent LaRosa. He is a network administrator.
That's all right. Just go with it. It's kind of cool. It's like the outtakes. Like,
all right, yeah. I might cut that one in at the beginning, and then I'll beep it out. All right, here we go.
Welcome to the Safety Doc Podcast with author, radio host, and nationally recognized safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Join us each week as we discuss the best and most bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. Follow Dr. Perrodin on Twitter at SafetyPhD. And remember, the truth will keep you safe.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. David Proden. Welcome to the Safety Doc Podcast, filmed live down here in the North Star recording studio. It is unfortunately 54 degrees right now, so a little brisk for a February 18th down here in the studio. But with the 55-amp charger, everything is up and working. And in the studio today, via our friends at Skype, we have Vincent LaRosa, who is a network administrator, also part-time masculine geek, author, explorer, so much more. Vince, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave, for Safety Doc. I want to say that. What's up, Doc? Thank you for having me on the show. This is cool. Although I have to say, full-time masculine geek.
Full-time masculine.
Always a full-time masculine geek. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, before we get into masculine geek, I remember this, and maybe some people, I remember you as Ulu from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Now,
oh my God, here, yeah.
I think it was 3 seasons. It was kind of recurring, but not recurring. But that's pretty awesome stuff. Do you ever kind of go to the conventions? Anyone ever identify you? But on the show, you don't look like you do now. I mean, you're done up as Ulu, but yeah. I mean, how was that?
Well, it was a periphery character, as you know, and I was pretty much in the back. You would almost call it I would be a B actor.
Okay.
The money was good, but that whole costume stuff, sitting in the chair for hours, that just sucked.
Yeah, because it was at the time. I think Jim Carrey was doing the Grinch, and he's talking about how he had to put on the yak hair and all that stuff, and it's itchy.
Exactly.
And Ulu was like a walking carpet. From the 70s.
Well, that's it. It was almost like having, Chewbacca costume, which I that got me through the intense make. I was like, you know what? It's like Chewbacca. It's like Chewbacca. It's like, that's fine. And I identified with Chewbacca. So that helped me get through and continue with the role. In fact, I used very subtly some of the sounds of Chewbacca. All that. Yes. Not too many people know this.
No. And I'm going down to Disney Orlando with the family. So if I see...
I'm sorry to hear that. No.
I don't know if they've got an Ulu, kind of in the background or where, I'm gonna watch for him. I know that guy.
There are certain parts, there are certain sculptures and there are certain movie posters where you can actually catch me in the background, and I do a small wave. So,
okay.
Yeah.
A two-finger one, kind of like Walt Disney, right?
It's exactly. It was homage. So yeah.
But anyway, I mean that's awesome. One of my friends is like, I met Henry Winkler. He's had a picture. I'm like, I know Ulu from, Star Trek Generation. He's like, exactly. Damn it. That Trump card right over. He's like, I have nothing. I have nothing.
See, exactly. So what happens when I come out to visit you, I'll give you the full autograph. Yeah, I still have a piece of the outfit where I can sign it for you. And you can have that. Yes.
I had... I had this baseball, so I threw this out at opening pitch July 31st. Game. And then the pen, everything faded. For one day, you could read everything, and then the next day, it's disappearing ink. So, a year from now, the whole base will all be gone. This will just be an empty lucite container. But
I have to get one of those museum quality containers. So that it filters out the UV.
I mean, I'm down here. There's no light down here except when I record the
Wait a minute.
show.
Yeah, come to think of it, you got screwed.
So yeah, that's pretty crazy. When I threw out that pitch, I tore my hamstring literally like a week before. So I'm limping out to the mound, and I'm just lathered up in like Bengay. So I'm just this, smelly old man gimping out to a mound, throwing a grounder to home plate.
Nice.
People are like, "Hey, nice job, Gramps." Hey, so Masculine Geek is amazing. So tell me about the founding. I've got actually the website up on my left-hand side, masculinegeek.com. So, check it out. Shows, newsletter, brilliant essays. But I guess tell me how this all came to be.
Well, I've always had a creative bent, as it were, ever since I was a small child. And I've always been doing something to not necessarily to better myself, although that is sometimes forefront in my mind, but just to not be bored. But I was thinking one day that there seems to be a crossover between traditionally masculine men who pursue masculine hobbies that are also, for lack of a better word, geeks. They do have geek hobbies. Right. They're men that are not ashamed of their own masculinity. They're very unapologetic, but they're not talking about their geek hobbies. And that bothered me because I consider myself a masculine geek. I'm very unapologetic about my masculinity. I'm very proud of it. And I'm also a very huge geek. I'm a local history nerd. I play Dungeons and Dragons. I love to read. I collect old maps. I'm recently getting into fountain pens, all kinds of really cool stuff, motorcycles. Yeah. And I guess it was it had been percolating for a while over the summer of 2018. And as we got into the fall, the Christmas time, I think, you know what? I need to pull the trigger on this. I need to stop thinking about it. And I wanted to run it by both Aaron and TJ. We had been following each other on Twitter for a very long time. I had met Aaron. I had met TJ. We were friends. And I considered them to be masculine geeks. As you know, Aaron and TJ, completely masculine geeks. Yeah. So I sent a Twitter DM to both of them. I said, look, I have this idea. And I laid it out. And I said, what do you think? TJ immediately fired his imagination. Aaron being the ever-present, pessimist. He's like, oh, well, yeah, that might work. Right. Aaron is. He's just like not ready to commit to anything. So I was like, we're going to do this. And then around the same time, for different reasons, I had been talking to Rob Says, and he probably told you the whole story behind that too. So you already know, and people can go watch the interview with Rob. And I said, Rob, you know what? Yeah, we've been talking. Like, I'm doing this masculine geek thing, and I described it to him. He's like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Like, well, you're a masculine geek, whether you know it or not. And he's like, yeah, I kind of am. Yeah, because he played he's done motorcycles. He's done really cool stuff in his history. He even did some amateur video work, home videos. Him and his friend out on the streets. He did this little, I'm probably telling him something he doesn't want anyone to know, so you can always edit that in post. But he showed me this really cool home video that
That's awesome.
Art house video that he and his friend, I'm like, wow, you should make that public. That's really cool. So he did that. He played Cyberpunk a little, maybe, I don't know about D&D, but he knew about Dungeons and Dragons. So I said, Rob, I want you to be on this show with us too. I want to bring you into this. You're completely, I think you, TJ, Aaron, and I, we make a good mix. Now, initially, Aaron was on the show consistently for, consistently a couple episodes he was there. And then he's sort of like, you know what, I'm going to go back to my angry old man. Right. You know how Aaron is, his angry old, I hate millennials and everybody, rah, rah, rah. That's him. So he has his thing. So it wound up being just TJ and Rob and I. And we found that we had a really good dynamic together. And it works, and it continued. We do it. We haven't missed a show. Well, there was 1 or 2 weeks where we took a little brief hiatus, but other than that, we haven't missed a show since beginning of 2019. So we're over a year old now, like 13 months.
And the regular episodes are Wednesday nights.
Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Right. Okay. Yeah. 8 p.m. Central for me. One of the things, the more work I do, the more people I have on podcast. This is my 118th episode. I'm like, what time zone are you in?
Exactly.
Central
Yeah.
score.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like, God, how do I make that conversion Pacific time to Central? Damn it. If only
Seriously.
someone would invent some type of easy dialer machine to decipher that. But so yeah. So I mean, if we look, so TJ, living in a cabin, Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Robin in the Salt Lake City area. You're in New Jersey, so you also have different geographic areas that you're pulling from, and then you had what was it? Village by the Sea in October. So
Oh, yeah. I like to go on these little writing retreats, meditative writing retreats for myself. Typically, they're solo. And what I'll do is I'll get a cabin or I'll rent a house on the beach and I'll go do this. I'm like, hey guys, come out here. We'll do like the Village by the Sea is a homage to Michael Porfirio and Quintus Curtius on Twitter. They talk about the Village by the Sea. I'm like, oh,
okay.
I like that. I like that title. So I'm going to borrow that. And like, Rob, TJ, come on out. Aaron, come on out. We'll hang out. We'll just, we'll eat, we'll drink, we'll, go wander a little bit. We'll do our writing. We'll make business plans. We'll just sit, have a few drinks, smoke some cigars, TJ your pipe, and we'll just watch the waves roll in and just relax and enjoy and meditate and, make plans. And that's what we did. We did it for a week.
And yeah, I saw a lot of the videos. You guys are periscoping.
Oh, periscopes. Yeah, that was fun. And of course, Aaron, we were not lying. And Aaron, we say this to us. Aaron called his girlfriend almost every half hour.
Wow.
Just to say hi and check in. He was stressed out. He was going through some stuff, so I get it. But of course, we have to bust his balls.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He drank. He did. He would walk up in the morning. He'd walk upstairs in the morning and be like, oh, he's all disheveled. He's like, oh, what's up, homos? Like, he'd look out at the ocean, pour himself some coffee, and almost as if he didn't realize he was doing it, he grabbed the Kraken rum that he bought for me, and he's pouring rum into the coffee and just drinking. It's like, oh, I think I'll go back to bed. And he would amble back downstairs. And the 4-hour naps, that's no joke either. So, yeah.
Yeah, 4-hour naps.
4-hour naps and numerous calls to his girlfriend.
So Village by the Sea. So I'm watching it from afar, what you're sharing out. And what's striking me is it kind of reminds me of, the member checking that I would say Henry Ford, John Burroughs, Edison did, 100 years ago, where basically they would go out camping for a week. They'd take a caravan and they would just go out, sit around a campfire and basically shoot the shit, right? And they could relate to each other because they're all, powerful in their own realm, but it's this real masculine thing of, we're at one with nature, we're going fishing, we're going to stay up late, we're going to, be drinking by the campfire. And as I did a lot of research into that, and, those guys were saying this really kept us going. Like we felt we weren't relating to other people. And, because we had achieved so much, it was hard. It's like going to the moon, right? If you haven't been to the moon, how do you explain walking on the moon to somebody else? But I look at this and it's something I just don't see in society anymore. I don't see this happening. And you did it. I mean, this Village by the Sea is the modern day, Ford. I don't know whatever the hell they used to call this event. They had a name to it, but you guys are doing that. So, I want to also get your perception or, your perception, TJ, Aaron. Is this something where you're doing this and you're saying, what, like nobody does this. Like, is it because of time? Is it because society says, nah, you're being exclusionary if you do this, or elitist if you do that? I mean, I'm just trying to figure this out. Or, the fact that people feel that everything has to be plugged in, so if you're going to do it, then, give 24-hour access to everybody so they can see this event. Or I'm trying to piece this together. What's your reaction to that? Did you realize in the moment where, maybe off camera where you guys talking and saying, this is really like this lost part that maybe our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers used to do, I don't know. For me, I just looked at that and my thought, Vince, was like, God, that must be awesome to be sitting out on that deck at night, smoking a cigar and just listening to those waves slowly crash in. I'm just like, that has got to be, and just talking, just, hey, it's just got to be cool to be in that environment with, a few other masculine geeks just talking and feet up on the rail. I don't know,
Thank you for tuning in to the Safety Doc Podcast with the nation's leading safety expert, Dr. David Perodin, author, radio show host, university instructor, researcher, expert witness, and consultant. Powerful testimonials. Dr. Perodin has a strong reputation as the go-to safety consultant, and he was still able to exceed our expectations. When we went looking for an expert in the field of crisis preparedness and prevention, David was the single person we pursued. Not easy stepping into the touchier subjects of life, but Dr. David pulls it off. Take a listen. Now, back to Dr. David Perodin and the Safety Doc Podcast.
You hit the nail on the head. It was amazing. And we definitely want to plan more of these. We have an Italy trip coming up that we're planning. I want to do another village by the sea and a few other things, even local things as well, getting together with a few of our followers and fans that have reached out to us that are here on the East Coast that I've made acquaintances with and contacts with. And just hey, we're going to meet up at the brewery and go talk. We're going to go hike, whatever. Just get out and do things. And you are correct. A lot of guys, I think what happens is a lot of part of it is media is telling you one thing, especially the exclusionary and all this diversity and all, you have to include. That's essentially a media political driven narrative. If you go out and talk to someone on an individual level, they're like, what? What are you talking about? So, but I think what happens is a lot of guys do not have mentors growing up. Their fathers don't know what they're doing. They do their best, but they don't know what they're doing. They grow up without a good masculine mentor in their life. They grow up emulating their parents or what society tells them they should do. So what society prescribes for the most part is this. You reach puberty. There's some things you have to do and start to get serious about, which is basically college and what you're going to do when you grow up. And that's the thrust of it. I mean, it's changing a little bit now, especially when the cost of college is coming to light. And it's just like it's not. The ROI is just not there. But fundamentally speaking, you grow up, you go to college, you meet a girl, you have a family, and then you work different jobs until you retire and you die. And that's the prescription. I mean, for the most part, unless you decide to go, hey, that's not something I want to do. So most guys kind of fall into this. So after they get married, it's either their own design and or their wives and their families. They get driven away or pulled away from their masculine group, their tribe, as it were. Right. And they start having their family and do things. And that's fine, not realizing that, hey, do I have someone to rely on other than my family? Do I have someone to talk to other than there's certain things I need to talk to that I cannot talk to my wife about. I need to go out and do things. I have to be out into the world creating, because men fundamentally thrust themselves, even from a psychosexual point of view, men thrust out into the world. That's how we have sex. That's how we create. We push energy outwards, from the hips outwards. And when men don't have that, they stagnate, they regress, they get angry, they wind up hurting people, they have horrible marriages. So when men don't have a well-rounded means of outlets, creative outlets with like-minded men, of course they need their family. That's right. One facet, and then it's sort of like we were talking about what you mentioned in your book about the bagel, getting outside your comfort zone. A lot of guys don't do that. They get into this rut in their family and they keep it going. They don't know how to get out of it because this is all they've known. And there are guys out there that, I mean, if you were to ask them, okay, if you're away on vacation and something happens at home, is, do you have a buddy you can call to go handle that for you while you're away? That's someone you can trust.
Right. Yeah.
Most guys would be like, no, I don't. And that's very sad, and that's to their detriment as well. I don't know if I have answered your question. I'm kind of rambling here, but
how do you recommend, or how do you suggest, if people are coming to you, people are coming to MG, they're reading the essays, how to, this one, Rise of the Lone Wolf, was an essay TJ wrote on February 15th, and I read that, in it's kind of resonating with me. How do you recommend men to build back this tribe, or to discover this tribe?
Well, that they say that you have to surround yourself by the people you want to be. You want to be like. So if it's not out there already via Masculine Geek or in your town, whether you're doing some kind of community thing, or Habitat for Humanity and things like that, where you're gathering with men, you have to create it for yourself. Find one or two guys you're sort of acquainted with already, and go out and do things. I found that most guys are lazy, and I'm lazy too. I have to push myself to do things. I realize it's part of my own childhood. It's part of who I am, and I've identified that early on. I need to push myself, otherwise I'll sit on the couch with drool coming out of my mouth and I'll watch TV. So I have all these things that I do. I have, in the back of my head is lists. I have things written down. And I push myself to do things. So guys, if they're left to their own devices, in some regards, will not do this. So they have to go out into the world and create these tribes for themselves. You have to make yourself the leader. Like with Masculine Geek, I do the administrative tasks. I book the talent. I make sure things run smoothly as they can. I take on that. I've taken on that role as partly because of the creator, but also because somebody has to do this. You can't have a bunch of alpha guys doing. You're going to clash heads, right? So somebody has to say, all right, we're going to go do this. And make that. Maybe you're going to go to the shooting range. Maybe you're going to build a house. Maybe you're going to help a neighbor with a project. Maybe you're going to go work on a car together. Maybe you're going to go have a fishing or a camping trip. You're doing something. There's some kind of action that you're doing. You're doing some kind of physical activity. And from there, the talking and the building and the creating is secondary to that action. We as men are task oriented. You see this a lot with guys who retire. Their identities are caught up with their work, right? And then they wind up. Many guys die. Many guys fall into a depression. They don't know what to do. So always action. And if there's not something you can join already that's out there, like I think what are the well-known kind of clubs, like the Knights of Columbus, and then you have the Freemasons and things like that. I'm not saying you have to go join those things. You research and whatnot, but create these things for yourself, whether that's going on to meetup.com and creating a meetup group centered around an activity. Right. Whether that's board games, or like, hey, I want to start this dude's hiking group. We're going to go once or twice a month. We're going to go. A lot of people like to do, like, try to overcommit. Don't overcommit. Once or twice a month, we're going to have these activities. We're going to go do that. And then you draw people in. You draw men into you.
Yeah, I like that idea. And, you talk about, meetup.com. I've started to find, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but, I'm starting to get into urban exploring a little bit. And there's an incredible group out there, of people, but, there's guys who are like, where's the place? Because I just got a new drone and like, I want to bring it out and get some footage.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's like the big thing. Like, and I'm like, this is, and then there's all these little subdivisions. So I've started to do research because, but the subdivisions, there's, one guy is like, where exactly is it? And then I gave, some information. He's like, okay, I've got that. Here's the plat book. And here, by the way, if anyone needs to look this up, like look it up, you can find out like the date it was built and all this other, but and then someone is good at GPS. So they like get the maps and figure that, but they're waiting. Right now it's the middle of winter, and so they're waiting, for winter to pass because a lot of these places aren't real accessible. But it's exciting because I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I mean, because it's history. I love history. We have cream brick around here, like kind of the Milwaukee cream brick. So a lot of the buildings, they're not red brick. They're kind of this yellow brick. And then, just that amazing part of seeing something that was created and now it's kind of being taken back by nature and the technology. Yeah, like I didn't realize one of my neighbors, he's a few houses away. He's a drone guy. So literally, like I stop over there, opens up like 5 cases, and one drone is the size of, like my hand, and another one is the size of a suitcase, and they're all for different things. And he's like, yep, can make these part of the deal. But I'm going to idle that for just a second. So Masculine Geek, somebody tunes in on Wednesday night, and there's always a very vibrant chat on the right-hand side.
The chat's great. We have some really cool people in the chat. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. But tell me, what typically, if someone makes this a part of their Wednesday, what are they going to get out of that? I mean, why should they tune in Wednesday night? YouTube, Masculine Geek.
It's 3 guys and some followers in the chat. Like you said, a very vibrant chat. We're sitting around swapping notes. We're talking about things that we love to do, and we're giving field notes on it. We're talking about our ideas. We're talking about our opinions, centered around maybe a specific subject, or as you know, we fly by the seat of our pants. Right. And I like that format. Sometimes I'll lead a little bit more than I do, but we're 3 dudes that are very determined and opinionated, so we can butt heads as far as like who takes the field, because as you'll know, TJ will be brief,
right?
Rob will ramble on, and I'll try to herd everybody. But our dynamic works very well. But it's just 3 dudes coming together. It's like we're sitting around like a fire, or like a club type thing. TJ has his pipe. Maybe he does have his fire going. Rob and I have our drinks, and we're talking. We're having a conversation. And we're just tossing out ideas. We're talking about what we did, what we'd like to do, things that are happening out in the world, hobbies that we're thinking about doing, or things that we are doing. Maybe we'll talk about women sometimes. Maybe we'll talk about cigar smoking, and sometimes we'll talk about motorcycles. Rob is very knowledgeable about motorcycles. Me less so, because I've only been into it about a year or so. But yeah, it's 3 guys just coming together, talking, having fun. We love the chat. We love interacting with everyone in the chat. And we're swapping notes, and we're talking about life.
So how do you keep it going after a year? I mean, every Wednesday night, there's 2 things. It can either become a commitment where it's like, oh, every Wednesday night, like I've got to do this. Or it's like, yeah, Wednesday, we're here. It's Masculine Geek night. This is awesome. And that's where it is. I mean, I love it. There's a lot of times, if I'm available, I'm logging in, and it's amazing how much the time goes. And then you get to know, the people, but it is so much energy. And I'll also add to this, Vince. Sunday night, there's a Masculine Geek newsletter that gets sent out. So you do a segment, and TJ does a segment, and Rob, and I read it as soon as it comes out. Bing, I'm probably like the first one. It's in my inbox.
Probably are.
And I'm through it, and it's maybe a thoughtful 5 to 8 minute read. And I've said it before to Rob, it's a calibration tool. It helps you kind of think about things. Like everything is kind of themed. One week it's like, hey, when you're asked to do things, when opportunities present themselves, say yes instead of just defaulting to no. That was one. And all of these things that, if you're in the presence, I guess, of maybe other men, they'll kind of just keep the bumpers on both sides, and if you get over there, they'll kind of bump you back into the middle where you need to be thinking. And I think that process kind of happens. Like I just feel like I'm ready for the week. I'm more in tune after reading this. I can relate to it. I don't know. I guess, are you getting other similar feedback to that? And how's this? People saying, we want more. And how do you make sure that you don't overcommit and say, now we're going to have meetups, we're going to have this, but we also have, other things that we're obligated to do?
Well, that's it. I mean, we're working on a masculine geek book. I'm working on my own writing. But we all work full-time jobs. So, but yeah, Masculine Geek, I look forward to it every week. Even if I've been on several times where I've been deathly ill. You wouldn't know it. I just don't say anything. I just do it. Okay. But yeah, I think as far as overcommitting is concerned, you can definitely get caught up in the momentum and go, I want to do all this stuff. I pull myself back and say, all right, look, guys, what do you think of this? We're just going to do once a week. We're not going to spam people. We're just going to do what we'll do. We'll all talk about something. Sometimes it's on point. We're, like you said, we're all talking about the same thing. And sometimes it's all over the place. It's just whatever we feel like talking about or relating or sharing a story, an anecdote, a movie. Sometimes with mine, it's BDSM, all kinds of cool, fun stuff. And then once a week, and that's it. So you start your week off on Monday, you start your Masculine Geek newsletter, you start your morning write, and then there you go. So that's not too bad. So I'll create a Google document around Wednesday or Thursday, share it out with TJ and Rob, and then we'll think about what we want to write. And usually around Saturday or Sunday, we're hopping on and we're putting in our 2 cents. So that's easy that way. We've gotten down into a groove, and we've had people reach out to us via our contact page or masculinegeek@gmail.com, and just they'll talk about what, hey, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Rob, because of this. Or, right, you guys are resonating with me. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work. And would you mind? I have someone to recommend to you guys, and I'll make note of that. I like to have at least 1 or 2 guests a month, at least. And I know for the foreseeable future, we're doing the live stream Dungeons and Dragons games with Rollo and Aaron, and Drew Bay as the Dungeon Master. So that takes up typically one Wednesday, unless we have a schedule change. So you figure, all right, twice a month we have a guest. Once a month we're doing live D&D, and then the other final Wednesday we're just essentially shooting the shit and you're just talking. So it worked. That format right now seems to be working out nice.
It does, yeah. And the D&D has been fun.
I know playing the last game, my character was. I enjoyed that very much.
A must-read for parents, teachers, and taxpayers. Dr. David Perodin has written the most honest book about the $3 billion school safety industrial complex. Attorney James Sibley proclaims, a brave demonstration of speaking truth to power. School of Errors rips the lid off the billion-dollar school safety industry. Using real-world examples of successful responses in desperate situations, David contrasts the expensive window dressings pitched to panic parents with the inexpensive and effective approaches proven to actually work. Read this book before you let your school waste another precious dollar on meaningless safety theater. Buy the international bestseller, School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America, now at Barnes & Noble or Amazon.
Gettysburg. So when you went to Gettysburg, you've done that solo, or you've done that just also with, you've done it with a group. I've seen the photos too, but how do you break the inertia to just say, I'm going to Gettysburg today, or I'm getting this group together and we're going to meet up at Gettysburg? Because I think that's one of the biggest things. People are like, the inertia. It's like, oh, kind of like you said. I mean, how do you not just say, I'm going to stay home today and just hang out on the couch or do whatever?
Yeah, because it's easy to do that, right? It's easy to get that quick enjoyment, what they call dopamine or serotonin fix from that one immediate sitting down, watching or playing a video game or whatever, or doing something at home. I like to wander battlefields. I like anything that's old that has where a lot of people were and now they're not. The words I used to be, the words abandoned, the words defunct all resonate with me for some reason. I have no idea why. I don't want to get all fortune cookie magical on anybody, but there's something that's spiritual about these places that's always drawn me. Right. So my parents, when I was younger, took us to Gettysburg and a few other local history places, and always had a love of, TJ and I talked about this on our Patreon podcast, Religion, Spirituality, and History, about the love of ancient and old places and the drawing that it has for men. So I'll just say I'm going to do this. Like I was like, you know what? I want to get a group together, and there's this really nice old house. I've made friends with the people that own a bed and breakfast. They have several Airbnbs that they rent out.
Okay.
And this old Civil War house that I like to rent, one of them. And I'm like, hey, just guys, come on out. And we're gonna do a battlefield gathering. We'll write. We'll play D&D. We'll drink. We'll go to breweries. We'll eat good food. We'll wander around, and we're gonna relax, enjoy, and make business plans too. So TJ came out. My friend John came out from Arizona, and then Aaron flew out as well. And then another friend who's local to me, he drove out for a day and stayed overnight. So it was just fantastic to have all your friends around you and to go do this. And probably one of the most, I mean, if you believe it or not, spiritually active battlefields in the world.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's on my to-do list. I won't say bucket list because I don't think I'm putting a bucket list together, but and I would say Masculine Geek is, part of the impetus of,
cool.
for me of saying, yeah, there's things I definitely want to do. Like visit some of these places, like get together or some of the gatherings, and even some of the followers who are kind of closer to where I'm at that I can either travel to or they can travel up into this area and we can do some of that stuff because it's just crazy. And these things too, it's like, I'm 48. I had a classmate die of a stroke like last month, and like my dentist died.
Oh shit.
And he was older, but yeah, I mean it's one of these things too. It's
you start thinking. I just turned 50 on February 5th. So I know exactly what you're talking about. All these people that you've known are starting to die. I mean, that's just that's how it goes. But it puts things in perspective. It's like, oh shit. I mean, I could say realistically that, okay, let's give myself some extra time here. I could maybe, let's say I'll go to, especially giving my family history, maybe I'll last to 70. Well, I've got 20. I've got 20 years left. So, I mean, when I look at it this way too, because I read Lord of the Rings every fall, every autumn, I start reading Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and the Return of the King. I'm like, well, that means I only get to read it 20 more times, right? When you think about it that way, it's really a kick in the pants to do these things. So next time you guys are out there and you're at a crossroads in your decision process where like I could sit on the couch or I could do this sedentary activity in the moment, or I could plan this amazing thing, whether it's your family, your friends, your buddies, go say yes and go do those things. Because I'll tell you right now, unless you're struck down and you obviously don't know it, you're just dead. But if you're suffering through some kind of illness and you are literally laying on your deathbed, are you going to remember, I'm glad I stayed in and played that video game? Or are you going to go say, I'm glad I met up with the Masculine Geeks and wandered the battlefields? I have some really cool memories. That's what you want to do, I think.
Yeah. So, you're talking about, talking about exploration, and we hit on it earlier, but I started to do some casual urban exploring. So, I had a friend who was like, here's how this works. It's like open door policy, and all this stuff. And then I actually do a little more research. I'm like, yeah, that's not exactly how it works. John, like, could be trespassing depending on where you go. So like I had to calibrate to making sure I was figuring out where these places were and I could contact somebody. And usually it was always if you can meet with them face to face, right? Because you're 48 years old and you're showing up and saying, well, listen, I'm not bringing a tribe with me. I just want to, just kind of interests me. I'm safe. I'm not going to climb up to the top of the roof or something like that. And then they're usually like, yeah, that's cool. Just don't post like the coordinates and stuff like that. So that's been like my strategy, and it usually always then works and so I've been starting to find some places, but I'll tell you, recently, in the last month, I found a place built in the 1850s. And then I was doing so anyway, I'm doing the dig back on it, and it's slated to be torn down. So this property is going to be developed, but residential home, right? And it's amazing. I'm going into outside. It's cream brick, and I'm just standing there. I'm thinking, this was here before the Civil War. Like this was,
I know, right?
Here.
Yeah.
This was like 100 years old when, basically like Pearl Harbor was bombed. I mean, it's just, I'm just, my mind is just bending. And I go through these ironclad doors, like this iron on wood, which has to be like original. And the one is partly open because I'm looking, and there isn't trespass. And it is, I'm not taking anything. I'm not damaging anything. I'm not, any of that. But the moment, I'm starting to see the tile, and you start to see the lath where the plaster was, and I heard this dripping noise, and there was a hole in the roof, and it dripped all the way down to the basement, and it rotted through, and it was just this really weird echo. But I'm looking, and there on the floor were buttons, like a whole bunch of buttons, like out of a drawer, and there was an fireplace grate, this old, I don't know, Gothic type fireplace with, what's left of the wood next to it. I mean, so anyway, a lot of the stuff was still there. Like it was untouched. I mean, no graffiti. There were, things that were probably circa 1960s still in the house, like some appliances and stuff like that, but stuff that was, prior to that. And I remember, because again, it was pretty recent, this amazing connection, this interest, but also this like super sober instance of saying, like there were people toiling to build this. Mm-hmm. And, they got done with this, and, here we are 160 years later, and it's basically going to be gone just because it decays. And it's also then like, I think there's a subtle point of, make the most of what you have, because, if you put your time into, I don't know. I don't know what I was feeling at that moment. I'll tell you, it was the most alive I felt. I mean, outside of like families, I'm saying though, something like I've done, like it was this eyes wide open. It wasn't because like I'm thinking someone's going to like sneak up, or there's someone who's camped out in the room next, the next room I'm going to. It was just this supercharged feeling. And then, immediately, like I learned as much as I could about the place, and it's just fascinating to like learn in the plot maps. And then like also where the Native American tribes moved, like the Winnebago would have been their area before this came in. And I realized there was another house that existed that was built 8 years earlier, and that one's gone. But I'm like, holy God.
Oh yeah.
And then of course now there's this network, like these people that they do this, and they want to know where these places are. They'll be respectful, and they bring in their technology, their drones, and all of this other stuff to get the views, and their little special lights, kind of like I have. But tell me about your experiences as an urban explorer, and I guess also that feeling, because I said I can't describe that feeling. I mean, it was 10 times more than if someone would give you the keys to a brand new car or something like. It was unbelievable.
Well, there's an intrinsic meaning in what you're doing that's already there, that you kind of step into and you're part of. So there's like this ponderous sense of time that you, like almost a flow that's unseen, that you step into and you become a part of in that moment. So your mind just, you're thinking everything you talked about and everything you see all comes together in that one moment. You're like, these people built this. There were people living here. There was emotions. There was activity. There was action. And now there isn't. And all you have left is this monument to that humanity. And it's indescribable. I completely agree. Like this weekend, I went to visit I have a very a soft spot for malls and mall culture. Okay. I grew up going to the mall. That was the thing to do on Friday nights. I went and I bought my books. I went and shopped. I sat and this is the first time I really got into Dungeons and Dragons. This one little bookshop called the Bookend in the Morristown Mall. The mall still exists. There's pieces of it being destroyed and things added on and changed, which tugs at my heart. But it's still alive for now. And that's actually one of my next book projects, is do a photographic pictorial of malls in New Jersey and get people's go out and visit people and talk to them, get interviews, and because it was a significant part of the pre-internet era.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have, there was no Amazon, there was no online shopping, there was no cell phones. Maybe there were beepers at the time. You remember beepers, but you didn't have any of that. And I went to this one mall in a town called Burlington, called the Burlington Center, and it went defunct in around 2017, 2018. And you can already see the trees getting wilder and the grass pushing up through the parking lot cracks. And it's lonely, it's forlorn, it's bittersweet, but there, like you said, there's an energy and you feel alive for whatever reason because of the sense of time that's surrounding you, and all these people were here. There's Christmas and Halloween and shopping. And I used to go there on the second floor of the mall. There was a shop called Allied Hobbies, and I used to get my D&D stuff there. I would make my pilgrimage to go to the mall and get my D&D stuff, because there was no internet. You couldn't do that. And there's no way to find players online. You had to go to this little like cork board where someone would put player wanted or DM wanted, and you pull off the phone number and on your rotary phone and call them on the phone. It was something about that still tugs at my own heart, and I love to do that kind of thing. Like I posted the Nike missile base, and there was one in West Hampton area near me. That's Nike missile base PH25, and PH stood for Philadelphia, for the Philadelphia area. There's different ones in different towns around here. That's since been destroyed, but that was an older photo. But I had gone out there recently. One side's been taken over by houses. On the left-hand side, a landscaper bought it, and that one photo I posted was an old radio tower. There's still a radio tower on the opposite side covered in vines, and the landscaper left it there. He kept it. He preserved that history, and I just love that. That's just amazing to me. Like I'll pass by an old house, write down the address, try to maybe talk to the owner, go check out the house, take photos. Sometimes I won't take photos. Sometimes I'll just go and visit a place, and I just like to be intimate with that location and then go about my business, and sometimes I won't even tell anybody. But another point, too, anyone who's listening wants to get into urban exploring, criminal trespass is not a good thing, especially if you're men of our age. You sort of you do have a reputation to maintain. Right. You know, if you're younger and you're like in your teens, you can kind of get away with that, and that'll slide. But you're pushing 50. You're pushing 50, and you're climbing over fences, and a cop rolls up. It's not a good look. So you want to reach out to a real estate, like with the mall. There were no trespassing signs, and obviously I didn't try to break in or anything, but I found out the real estate company that owns it, they're trying to get it developed into something very similar in the upcoming future. So I want to get in there. I want to reach out to them, tell them what I want to do book-wise, and just get in there and take some photos and do a tour and maybe some video. So I want to include that as well. So stuff like that, it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, the first place I went to, I didn't take any pictures, as you said. My phone was in my pocket the entire time. It didn't. And normally, what do you do when you go someplace and you see anything obscurely interesting that you think you might want to look at later? You take 10 pictures. Yeah. And here I am looking at some of the most amazing stuff like I've seen. You know, just that image of this open drawer with these maybe 50 or 60 white, and I'm guessing maybe like clam buttons or whatever the hell on the floor. Like, wouldn't that be like an awesome picture? But no, it was totally absorbed in taking this in. But you talk about, so something I did last year, Vince, is I decided I was going to bike 80 miles in a day, and I did it like several times. Nice. And, I would map out routes, and actually I do routes that go along the Wisconsin River and through some real kind of ancient areas like effigy mounds, that huge effigy mounds I bike like right past, very rural. And it's an entire day. But this is something where, I never bike. Well, I would bike like 3 to 5 miles, and that would be like my biking. Like I'd be winded, and I was just not interested in it. Now I'm like, I put it together. I've learned how to maintain the bike, disassemble it, reassemble it, do all of this stuff, and it is this incredible experience. Like I can go through there's a section of land that has honeysuckle growing on both sides. And the smell when you hit the honeysuckle, honest to God, it's like the last part of Petticoat Junction when the train is coming up and the fields and the dog. It is almost like that. And that's all there is. There isn't anything that has a sense of like, modern time to it in that like quarter mile. And it is so amazing because I'll go through and I'll just be like, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? And I'll just rotate through that. And then I'll just start doing some of the I don't know. I call it, I wouldn't say it's talk therapy, but usually at night I'll run when it's late, and I'll do that so I can kind of talk through if I'm doing projects or something, I can throw it back to myself. How would this sound? How would this sound? But once I did it, though, it was the only reason I didn't do it is because I just there was no reason to not do 80 miles. You know what I'm saying? Like I just got up one day and I'm like, I'm just going to do this. Like, why can't I? Like, I physically am fit. I can do this. Like it's, and it was freaking awesome. And I'm now cool. I'm going to like push it to 100. Like I mapped out some new areas. Oh, nice. And I'm like, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go and I'm getting a bigger, luggage rack so I can pack more with me. But that's kind of like this solo time for me. Like I don't want anybody else with me. And part of it, I just don't want to talk. I don't want to try to like bike next to someone and maintain a conversation.
That's it. You don't want to waste that energy.
Thank you for tuning in to the Safety Doc Podcast with the nation's leading safety expert, Dr. David Perodin. Author, radio show host, university instructor, researcher, expert witness, and consultant. Powerful testimonials. Dr. Perodin has a strong reputation as the go-to safety consultant, and he was still able to exceed our expectations. When we went looking for an expert in the field of crisis preparedness and prevention, David was the single person we pursued. Not easy stepping into the touchier subjects of life, but Dr. David pulls it off. Take a listen. Now, back to Dr. David Perodin and the Safety Doc Podcast.
So what's some of the coolest stuff you've either discovered or, especially maybe in some of these more ancient sites, these older sites? What are some of the things you're like, God, I had no idea like this was here?
I like to, this is so geeky. I tell guys, anyone really, women can do this too, I don't care, but guys in particular, go into Google Maps, okay, and bring up the satellite view. You can get some history books if you want to, local history, but look at Google Maps around your area because you're going to see things that are left over in the ground. And one of these points was I saw this old racetrack, like an oblong track in the Pine Barrens off of what's called Moss Mill Road. I'm like, what is that? So I got the GPS coordinates. I looked where it was near. I'm like, oh, this is in Hamilton. And I did some research. Well, two parts to this. One is it was a racetrack. It was the nation's first wooden racetrack pre-World War I for cars.
That's amazing.
It was like this complete wooden racetrack, and people would come and I'd make a day of it and see these cars race. Now, it was north of this one building, and I would pass it too. I found out I was passing on the one that was called the White Horse Pike, Route 30. Like this weird old, like dormitory-looking building. And at the time, it was part of the state police area. There's like this forensic unit. and this was white building was sitting in the back. And when I did more research about the racetrack, in that area there was a town during World War I called Amital. It was named after the explosive that the town produced.
Okay.
So the Amital production plant was nearby, along with the rail cars and everything, the trains coming in, and then they had the town built up. All these houses, a school, a church, a general store, and all these amazing things. The last thing to be standing is that barracks that I saw.
Amazing.
It's so cool. So I went out there. I wandered around. I saw all these old cellar halls. I saw parts of the road that would converge on the square, because you can see it when you're looking down the maps, and then when you're walking, you're like, oh, okay, I can print the maps out and look at them, and you can see. I always advise doing that, because you kind of get a sense of place and time with that. Take books with you as you go. Take a notepad, jot things down. That's just amazing to me to be able we can have this technology. If I had this as a kid, and that's one of the things too. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. Urban exploration allows you to tap into that wonder, that sense of wonder as a kid. Like, this is Indiana Jones like. This is really cool. All you need is a bullwhip and the hat and you're set. But now we have all this technology to help us do these things and find these amazing places. So I would suggest definitely sitting down on the weekend and going through your Google Maps in your area and finding out local history. Right. Another one was the battle. I wrote about this. I started to, and I got to do this. I still need to do the second portion, the actual battle part of it. The Battle of Chestnut Neck is called. The book is called A Nest of Rebel Pirates. The privateers during the Revolutionary War had a setup, a town called Chestnut Neck, and further up on the Mullica River was the Forks. The privateers would set out. As you know, privateers were given official. They had their letter of marque. They were given official permission by the government, by Congress or the local government, to go out and take British ships or their cargo as prizes, and either sink them and take the cargo, or preferably bring the ship in so they could sell it in auction in Philadelphia. So this was this little town of pirates and privateers that was an integral part of giving the king and his navy some grief. And it's right here in New Jersey. So when I went to go see the spot where this happened and all the little houses were there, and standing close to the shoreline where you look out into the bay, there's 2 or 3 sunken hulks of British ships still there. This is amazing. It's amazing to be part of that history, even though you're forward in time.
I remember a Village by the Sea when you had the image of the cement ship, the ship made out of cement.
Oh yeah, the SS Atlantis.
Yeah.
Is that cool? Yeah.
So I'm going online, I'm doing it, and it's like, one of a handful of ships is made out of cement. I'm like, holy Christ! Like, that's awesome. Like, you guys were right there, and then So where I live, Vince, this was the second community founded in Wisconsin, and it had a fort, Fort Winnebago, from 1824 to 1853.
Oh, is that with all the Indian wars and fights?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
And Jefferson Davis, when he was 20 years old, was right here, like literally a mile from my house. And I used to give tours there's one building left from the fort, 1824. It still remains. And I used to give tours, and there was a chair that he made, and actually he made a chair and wardrobes for the fort. The fort was, pretty large, and this is the Surgeon's Corps is the only building. And then if you look back, because I knew all of it and I have it documented, like, there were so many significant players on both sides of the war that were here between like 1824 and 1832. Eventually, when it came to the Civil War, like, all huge players. And it's amazing. So, on President's Day, people are like, hey, who's your favorite president? Like, it was Jefferson Davis. Like, I had this connection to him because
here's why.
The guy, I mean,
that's cool.
I actually touched this chair and this wardrobe that he made, and I walked in the building that he walked in as a 20-year-old. And then I had access where I could see, he would send people off to go get, like, pine trees so they could, build more shit with the barracks or all of this stuff in his notes. They were all there. We're a small community. And I actually wrote a grant, like, with the I donated my time and I wrote a grant so they could get archival storage units, like where it's stainless steel and it could be, boxes so the humidity would. None of this stuff is just like in wooden boxes in a garage at this facility, like these handwritten logs from the fort, I rebuilt the fence with my dad.
Oh,
so
cool.
we rebuilt 200 feet of fence, and it was all cross beam, like pine. I don't know how. Basically, you put it like this. It's probably out of Gettysburg, same setup.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that had all fallen into disrepair, and it had been. That wasn't original, of course. It was stuff. But so I said, yeah, like I could do this. Like my dad had access to somebody he knew that had a lot of posts and stuff like that, because where I grew up, there was ginseng farming, and you could take ginseng posts were made out of wood. Anyway, so Dad brings the stuff down. We start to make this pile, and then kind of game plan how we're going to do this. So we try to do it pretty original. So like I'm doing, with hand saws, hatchets, but I have some lag screws to put everything together so it doesn't fall apart. But then I can put it together, and you can't tell like where the stuff is. And I'm not like really great at building stuff, but I just figured it out. And it was so amazing. Like this project with my dad, still there to this day, like got it all cleaned up. We rebuilt the well also.
Neat.
And that was really awesome, because I remember I was out there, and then they were giving tours to like elementary kids, and these elementary kids are coming up to the well and they're peeking over, and the well only goes down 2 feet and then it's dirt. But it was the most amazing thing, because they're like, oh, here's the well. Like they used to come out here for the water. I'm like, I rebuilt that for you guys. Damn it.
Really cool. Yeah.
But
you're a part of history. I mean, you did what they were doing at that time.
It was really cool. It's split rail fence is what they call it. To actually.
That's right. Yeah.
And we had a post hole digger, manual post hole digger, and we're just doing this stuff and putting it together. And like I said, it's amazing to have. I love that I live in a historical hub. Kind of similar to what you're saying, because I put a bat house out in back of my property, like 100 feet back, and I'm digging down and I'm pulling up like pottery and stuff, like 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And then I live in the Indian Hills subdivision. So I'm looking too at the map, and I'm like, we have an Indian agency house built in 1832, which was basically to negotiate payment with the tribes in this area to keep them at peace during the Indian Wars, the Sauk Wars. So that's literally, I can leave my house and be there in 15 minutes.
Oh, cool.
So it's just absolutely crazy stuff. But yeah, so I mean, when I was doing that stuff, it was really cool, because the fort, there were a lot of guys kind of involved in, we're just keeping this place up, because I mean, there was no budget, right? There's this
well, that's it.
Really weird.
Stuff falls into disrepair and nobody cares.
And yeah, so I mean, yeah, we brought it back. It's kind of like someone buying, like a old hoarder home and then like cleaning the junk, all of the brush. Yep. And it was just amazing. So hey, as we kind of turn the corner to the end here, talk about the book, the Masculine Geek book that you're writing with Rob TJ. Is anybody else involved in that? And then also, what's your timeline for when you expect to have that out?
Well, I had wanted that. I'll go into the timeline office. I wanted that the first draft to be finished by the end of February, and it almost is. We're going to spill over into March, because this is my fault. I'm a little bit behind with my chapters. It's just it takes a lot of what we talk about in the newsletters on the site and puts a different spin on it as well. It's all new, but it's extended thing. They're extended topics from the newsletter and the website. Some of it's instructional. We're putting in a lot of anecdotal evidence, stories and things of that nature, things that are close to our heart that we can share with everybody and say, hey, we do this because of this.
Right.
This happens because of that. So I'm not sure how long it's going to be. I would say at least 100 pages at the very least. Nothing long. We like quick reads. So, yeah.
What are you looking for a timeline? I mean, out in 2020?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
If we can get the book artist that we want and get this edited when we want, I'm going to say like midsummer.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And we want to do a series like the Masculine Geek Guide to this, the Masculine Geek Guide to that. So
Right.
that's the plan. Yeah.
Man. So anything else big for you? Anything happening?
I'm on my third pass of edits for my second novella, Tesla and Malone. That's the first one.
Okay.
So that's TJ's read that. He's like, when he read the first one, he's like, what the? He's like, I want more. He's like, you left it. I leave everybody at a cliffhanger on the first one on purpose. So I gave him the second book to read, and he did a beta read of that for me and gave me some feedback. So I've been incorporating that into my third pass of edits. So editing is the worst part. I hate it. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
As you know, editing is just it's just such a drudgery. But
yeah.
you just gotta be done. You gotta like, all right, you know what? This is gonna have to be good enough, and that's a big part of a mindset is good enough. So that I have a fantasy novel I'm working on, an erotica book I'm working on. I want to do the mall thing that I just mentioned. I give everyone a sneak preview to that. I'm starting to outline that. Continue with Masculine Geek things, Masculine Geek meetups, Masculine Geek adventures. Just keeping everything moving forward. Just moving forward every day. But it's fun. I mean, it has to be fun. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. No, it sounds fun. And I mean, it's evident the energy that you have. And then also when you connected and Rob and TJ, I still remember, was it your Christmas special when TJ almost burned his cabin down? It's kind of kind of hot step it there with the stove. Yep. And then I'm like, I'm kind of watching him like, dude, just, yeah. I know you got this under control and everything, but
you're going to wind up with a fire on your end.
It's taking down better people, so yeah, fire can be your enemy. So it was just funny. It was just this hilarious moment. I'm glad everything worked out, right? It wouldn't have been funny if his place would have burned down, but yeah, it was, oh my God. It was just so, I was removing, we had like this cold stretch a few years ago. And I had to get the ash out of my fireplace, and there were still a lot of hot coals. And putting it in the bucket, and then a couple fell out onto our cat, who was in a cat bed underneath.
Into the cat? Oh my God!
I'm picking these hot coals rapidly off the cat, and the cat doesn't realize that the fur is being singed by these.
Slowly singeing. Oh my God!
I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, didn't mean to do this. Cat's fine. Nothing. Brush out after that, but I'm like,
hot kitty. Oh, jeez, that's funny.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. Yeah, my Mowgli's he's very he's not afraid of it, but he'll watch the fire, but he doesn't go anywhere near it, so that's good. Because I have a fireplace in my apartment, so it's nice.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I have wood fire, and I've shared too. Yeah, the wood fires stacking the wood, and had the picture at the start of the year with 11 cords. Now
I remember that. Yeah. What are you down to?
Maybe a cord and a half. And yeah, so I could have used a few more cords of firewood, but we've got some time. We're not going to actually be here. My mother-in-law is going to be watching the house. We're going to be gone. So the fire season for me is probably done in about 3 weeks, but it's cold. Tonight's going to be cold. And then tomorrow will be, probably single digits, and we'll rebound up from that. But the older I get though, Vince, I do not like winter. Grew up in Wisconsin, and everyone's like, yeah, but you're from here. And I was from northern Wisconsin, where it was even colder and more snow. And I'm like, I just never got into that.
What's the lowest temperature you've ever experienced?
Oh, God. Last year we had regular Fahrenheit temperatures of minus 35 to minus 40 in February.
What?
Last year.
Let me tell you something. If it got to be minus 40 here in New Jersey, that would be a public health emergency.
Yeah.
They would fly copters in to airlift people out to get them into like 40 or 30 or 40 temperature. It's insane. We wouldn't want to know what to do with that.
And then the you get a notice, and they'll say, leave your water running. And they don't charge you for your water because, or they just use an average because they don't want your pipes to freeze up. But no, that hits. It's so... I don't know. I'm the type of person though. Like I like warm. And people are like, well, you can bike in winter. Like you can put, you can get the big tires. Layers, like, no. It's kind of not my thing. Like, but But yeah, the older I get, not that I was a big fan when I was younger. I used to play basketball with my friends outside on like, the snowy basketball court a block from our house with the steel net,
Oh yeah.
But I'm like, oh man, I'm ready. And then of course, like down here, the studio is not heated. So in summer has the nice effect of staying, 68 degrees, low humidity, great. But the further you get in the winter, studio chills.
You've got to get a little heater in there or something. Yeah,
something's got to happen down here.
Yeah.
So,
real fast. When we, at the Village by the Sea, the first night when I picked TJ and Rob up from the airport, we went into Old City, Philadelphia, and I took them to the City Tavern, and parts of that were around when Ben Franklin was alive during the Revolutionary War. Like he was there, so it's like it was nice to take the guys around and walk around where these Revolutionary War figures. This is like the cradle of the Revolution, where it took place and was, sedition was planned, as it were. It was just amazing to be there and to experience that. Oh, I know TJ really loved it. Rob was like, whatever. Let him burn. You know how he is. But it was just fun. Then we had dinner, and then we walked up the street to a cigar shop and sat in their lounge and had a cigar and talked and just relaxed. It was so fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it from afar, and, I think it's a template. I don't know. It's, if you see it, like you actually did it. And that's the thing, more and more and more, it's like, just do these things, just get together. Or if you're saying, I'm going to do this, or going to go and ask permission, take the photos of the mall, interview some people, get the history. I mean, so you're talking mall, and I mean, I just can't get out of my mind. I mean, when I was in college, there was a mall in the college town, and my friends, Nate, Craig, and Ice, we'd go in Ice's 1976 orange Rusty Nova the mall, right?
Yeah,
we'd go to the mall, which was close to campus. And one time, it's so rusty, like the front panel fell off of Ice's car, and he ran over it. And then we had to stop and debate whether to pick it up off the road and put it in the trunk or just keep going. But he just kept going. And we got there, but they had the arcade in pinball, and it was the Black Knight. So we would just load up on, we'd bring our money in, and we would just be playing. We'd all be around, and and it was just fascinating. So it's like, Ice would go for 3 games. Okay, then it'd be my turn. Then it'd be Vern's turn. Then be Shaker's turn. Be like, God, this is just so damn awesome. Like, this is just the greatest, right?
Right.
And, and that was built maybe, 1980, the mall. But you're right. I mean, no cell phone, and there was the record place. So on the way out, you'd stop. Hey, like, what 45s are in, and pick up. And of course, Radio Shack was pretty hip.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Radio Shack in almost every mall.
You get to see the coolest stuff, like at Radio Shack, the Tandy computer, the calculator watch.
Yeah.
And you're right. And then the big center part, there was like a couple trees and like benches, and then I think there was this like body of water you walked over or whatever. But it was so damn amazing. And I mean, I'm glad people. I say this. I'm glad I lived when I did. Like I'm glad I got to experience those things, because they're not there now. And I've said that more than once.
We're at that age where we say things like, I remember when, or there used to be fill in the blank.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
very bittersweet. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it is. I did a presentation close by, a safety presentation this fall, and I parked in the parking lot of the now basically defunct mall, which has like one store, and the rest of it is all, just places where they store stuff and things like that. And it was sad. I wish I wouldn't have gone back and seen it in that state. I wish I'd parked somewhere else and not had that memory. But yeah. So, I mean, just kind of recapping, some, Masculine Geek Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Correct.
People go masculinegeek.com. You can get all the information that you need for the show. And then there's also some Patreon, that you and Rob have, or there's some other aspects of the show that you can access.
There are, yeah. We have some We do articles, photos. They're specific to BDSM and DS.
Yep.
And then we have the cartoon hour. TJ and Rob and I, we still do that for Patreons. And then TJ and I are doing another, we call it religion, spirituality, and history, but anything that's relating to masculinity in those three topics. And it's very non, we're not fanatical about it. It's just we're two guys talking. We're like we're doing now. Okay. So that's kind of cool too. So go check that out. Because we do offer adult content, you can't go on Patreon and just search for Masculine Geek. We won't come up. You actually have to put in the full URL, Patreon/Masculine Geek, all one word, or just go to our website and click the link. You can do that too. We have an Instagram account. We have a Twitter account at Masculine Geek 1, Masculine Geek on Instagram. So we're everywhere. I started doing a BitChute for video as well, uploading some of our stuff there. Oh, we also have SoundCloud. So if you want to MP3 audio, you can go to soundcloud.com and search us there.
My podcast started out on SoundCloud, and then and then SoundCloud was having some fiscal issues a couple of years ago, and then one of my friends said, why don't you go over to Podbean, which has been fine, but then I migrated everything and I lost like all of my counts and stuff, and now like SoundCloud is just fine. So I'm like, that sucks. I should have just left it there. What the hell?
Well, I like SoundCloud. They've been pretty good to us.
I know there wasn't any reason to sever that relationship other than real dicey financials for like one quarter. And then
there was a lot of articles like, oh, SoundCloud's going bankrupt and you're going to lose your stuff and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, they're crying wolf. I'm going to stay here, and we're fine.
Hey, how about also MG Consulting? I see it here on the website. I've seen some posts about it. What does that entail?
Oh yeah, that's just something goofy. It was almost like a joke, but it turned into something serious. Because a few people people ask us in the chat, where are your super chats? We want to ask a question. We want to pay you. I don't want to get involved in that. I personally don't want to be beholden to someone in the chat that I'm forced to answer a dumb question because they paid me money. I don't care about that. I don't want it derailing the conversation too much. If you want to support the show, go buy our books, buy the forthcoming Masculine Geek book, go onto our Patreon, support us there. We have different tiers. Don't worry about the super chat. I don't want ads on the YouTube. I don't want none of that. I can't stand that. I'm in the middle of listening to a YouTube, and then all of a sudden this ad pops up for whatever. I'm like, crap. Skip. You got to wait for it. Sometimes the ad's 12 seconds. Skip. So you can do that. Now, we had some interest, people asking us, well, what about consulting? I'm like, I hadn't thought about it. Like, everybody does consulting. Everyone's a life coach or whatever. I'm like, then I thought about it. I'm like, well, you know what? Combined, kind of like nobody's doing this the way we are. No one's doing a newsletter like us, all three of us. No one's really doing consulting like us. If we did that, I'm like, that's kind of a new template, a new format. Let's just, for S&Gs, let's try it. You get all three of us for an hour. You bring us your problem or your concern. We'll all talk about it, rap about it, and give you our life experience if we have any.
Absolutely.
And perhaps our advice. So if that's something you want, where it's not cheap, but then again, our time, we're getting old, we're all old. Our time isn't cheap, so it's up to you. But we think it's a worthwhile endeavor. We bring probably close to 100 years experience.
Yeah.
So life experience, yeah. So.
And people don't realize, right? If you have something and it's kind of gnawing at you, your gut instincts are often right. And if you can bring that out there to somebody you trust and somebody who, can be this member checker, a fresh take on it, and they can bounce it back to you and say, yeah, either you're right on, or maybe like, here's some different ways to look at it, or I had something similar happen at one time, and here's some, that advice, whether it's, $100, $500, $1,000 is invaluable versus making some horrific mistake because, you were way too close to the situation to really objectively look at it. So, pushing this information forward to let some different minds, take it and turn it a little bit and get it back to you, maybe in a different format. I think that is invaluable. I mean, I think it's a bargain, right? To have it. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
and that's
MG
there.
Consulting. And
Yeah, it's goofy, it's fun, but we're serious. We'll listen to you. You'll have us for the full hour, get our complete focus and our attention, and it's private and confidential. So
Star Trek, if they contact you, because if I read this right now, I don't know exactly how the hell this works. Okay, but through conversations we've had, but you can still be asked back to play Ulu, right?
Absolutely.
Like you can still technically come back.
It's such a versatile character, mainly because you can't just know. I mean, the humanity is. I'm not. You can't tell it's me.
Right.
So it's like essentially this walking rug. I mean, they borrowed a little bit from Star Wars, but it's just some crossover. That's fine. There's some creative licensing that they allowed slip under the rug, so to speak. But
I like that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I love puns. So yeah, at any time I can get called back.
That's So I mean, Star Trek 2 was one of my favorite movies. I remember we had cable TV came to our town, like rural town, and we got cable and it was watching that, and then yeah, I mean, I like Next Generation was pretty cool. I mean, and like but yeah, I mean, it was just so you still have like your card though, like it's like a guild card, or how does that work? You have to pay dues.
Yes, sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's amazing.
Hollywood's not a good place right now, so we can't.
Yeah. No. It's not, but anyway, Star Trek. Yeah, the next generation. I don't know. It's awesome.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff, and it's small little trivia like that makes things interesting in life.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Vince, thank you so much for being a guest on the Safety Doc podcast.
Of course.
Down here in the North Star recording studio, where in winter it is 53, 54 degrees right now, but it's okay. We make it work. Part of the Safety Doc podcast focuses on agency and purpose, and that's a big part of what we talked about today. Understanding, who you are, what you want to do, setting life goals, making connections, because that is a huge part of psychological safety. And we tend to, in the safety world, that we tend to, just focus on physical safety and all of that, and not turn into kind of more the introspection of, making sure that we have psyche and soma, connected. So I thought we did a wonderful job of that today. It's always fascinating to listen to you, to observe what you're able to share online, the places that you go, continually the things that you're doing. It's wonderful, and it's also then a little kick in the pants for me, because I'm like, he was out, doing whatever it is. I'm going to get out. I'm going to do this stuff today. So, Masculine Geek, everybody, masculinegeek.com. Check it out. And Vince, thanks for being a guest on the Safety Doc podcast.
It's been a great pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was great fun. I appreciate it. And everyone who listens in the future, I appreciate you joining us. And this is fun. And I'd like to come back sometime if you'll have me.
Yeah, we'll probably make it a spring, because this place is cold in winter. Yeah, well, summer.
This has been the Safety Doc Podcast with author, radio show host, and leading safety expert, Dr. David Peroni. Remember to check back each week for the latest, best, and most bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. You can find Dr. Peroni on Twitter @SafetyPhD. And remember, the truth will keep you safe.